Hello, everybody. Welcome to our first ever um, Talking with a Professional. Now, what is this show about? This show is to help parents, give them knowledge and tips in little micro industries, I guess we can call it. So, our goal is to have, a pediatrician on here. Our goal is to have a children's dentist. Our goal is to have here a realtor, anything where parents can learn from and get some advice because we're not just all about music, we're all about helping you guys learn, right? So, for the first episode, we have Delilah, which I'm going to give her a second to introduce herself. But I will just start by saying Delilah is a tutor and she's also a lot of other things. And she's also currently employed at Glendora Music and Art School. She's one of our music fun time teachers. But today, you're going to be able to hear some tips from a tutor. Your kid's struggling in school, having a hard time with homework, they're not getting good grades on their tests. You're going to want to listen up to this episode for the tips to help you help them. So, Delilah, welcome. You want to introduce yourself?
Yay. Okay, well, thank you for having me. My name is Delilah, and I work as a music fun time teacher. And I started tutoring like a couple years ago. I was helping my cousins with their homework, and then my mom started telling her friends if her kids needed any help, and I started having them as students or as like people I was helping. And currently, I also work in an elementary school, or I'm getting my hours in an elementary school helping students with their work during class, kids who need a little bit of extra help, I'll pull them aside, things like that. I'm very passionate about teaching and I have a lot of great tips.
That's great. Well, thank you for that wonderful introduction, Delilah. So, let's get straight to it because parents are busy and we're all busy. So, let's get to the nitty gritty of this interview. So, when did you start tutoring? You kind of mentioned in the intro, but when was that?
I started tutoring like a year or two ago in like November, around that time. Yeah.
Perfect. And what made you want to start tutoring? I think you said your mom kind of pushed you, or was it your aunts and uncles? What was it?
Well, my aunts and uncles, I was helping their kids, so my cousins during COVID when everything was at home and schools were closed down and we were doing school from home and they were having trouble navigating that. And what they needed help with was a lot of their homework, getting their assignments done, helping them focus in class. So I would go over to their house and kind of see what they needed help with, which was mostly math and history and courses like that. And when it came to tutoring, my mom mentioned it to me if I wanted to start tutoring. And I was super open to the idea because I love getting to work with children and giving them the confidence to feel good about themselves and their abilities in school. Because some kids, all they need is that extra reassurance that they could do the work on their own eventually. But, sometimes they need a little bit of help.
Yeah, and I think you started tutoring at the right time because a lot of parents, and you know this, Delilah, because you tutor and you work at the schools, but a lot of parents and teachers are still dealing with the COVID, the after COVID, I don't even know what you would call it, struggles for the kids in school.
Yeah.
So I think you got in at a perfect time when kids needed a lot of help. So that's great. And what would you say that kids nowadays need the most help with? Is there like a subject or is there like a learning technique they need the most help with? What do you see?
So, and I even saw this when I would ask my parents for help with homework, is a lot of math is taught differently nowadays with different concepts and strategies that are being implemented. I know when I tutored one of the kids that I was working with, when they showed me their math workbooks and I opened it up with them, it even looked different to what I learned when I was in school. So I had to kind of give myself a refresher so that I was able to help them. But I think that's what a lot of parents struggle with that I've heard. And my parents, like I said, had issues with that. When they were taught math, it was taught differently than when I was learning math. And then when I helped my students, it was taught differently even then. So it's just getting used to how they're teaching in schools. There's a lot of things that are online nowadays, which parents have a hard time navigating. And some history concepts are a little bit harder, especially for young kids, because they have so much to memorize. But when it comes to studying and getting used to that routine of studying at a young age, I feel that's when students need the most help to develop those skills.
And so you would say it's math. So first of all, what a
Yeah.
great point because I think that's been a struggle for a lot of parents. And I think that's why tutors are needed because they teach everything differently as times go by. New techniques, they think,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes they just end up going back to the old ways, but they try new stuff. Sorry about that. But they'll try new stuff and all those good. So another question I would have for you to stay on the subject is they're struggling a lot with math, and then parents are struggling to teach the kids, right, the math. So what's the best way for a parent who doesn't know the new way of teaching math to help their kid understand the subject better?
Well, to understand the subject better, I would just suggest to look up, YouTube videos. You can Google different, I know I looked at a lot of images of different steps. Like if you look up step by step how to do K through first or whatever kind of math that they're working on, if you look it up and kind of reteach yourself as a parent to this ways that they're learning, it helps them because a lot of parents like to teach their kids the way that they were taught, which
Yeah.
can get confusing because then when they go back to class, they're learning a whole different way, and it's hard to kind of bounce back and forth. Even if essentially they're getting the right answer, it can be a little overwhelming for them to learn different concepts. But yeah, reteaching yourself the math, understanding the steps, and a lot of the workbooks that kids are working on, they have instructions that the parents can look through. You can ask, teachers, talk to the teachers, don't hesitate with that because a lot of the teachers are so busy with all of their students that sometimes they might not see it happening when it does when a kid needs help. So you can bring it to their attention, maybe like before school or after school and kind of talk to them about it. But before doing that, just reteach yourself the best way that you can and learn the best way that your child learns.
And I think a great point that I pick up as a parent myself
Mhm.
is that this is why tutors are needed because some parents don't have the time to teach themselves these subjects. And that's why people like Delilah are here to help out with the tutoring because it's not easy to go back and reteach yourself. But you're studying this, you take the time to reteach yourself, so that's great. Before we move on
Mhm.
to the next question, which is changing the subject a little bit, is there
Mhm.
another subject that you would say? Because I know parents are hearing this saying, "Yes, my kid is struggling with math. We're not the only ones." So is
Mhm.
there any other subject that you would find would be like in second place of kids struggling with?
Probably history. Um, like I said earlier, it's just learning how to study at a young age is a very scary concept for a lot of young kids because they have dates to memorize and the states to memorize and different things about our history. And depending on how they're taught or what they're taught in the classroom, sometimes it can get a little bit overwhelming, all of the stories that they have to memorize and, historical events that happened in our country. A lot of elementary students will learn US history. So probably teaching them how to study, asking them questions about the material, that's very helpful as a parent. And we're even taught that in education to ask the students thought-provoking questions about the material as much as possible so that they can retain the information and make their own conclusions to why things are the way they are and that kind of stuff.
And that's actually a perfect segue to my next question because, well, my next question, I'm going to pose it, but then I want to give you some food for thought for everybody listening. My next question I have here is what can a parent do to help their child achieve more success in school? In other words, the kids that you see in school, Delilah, that are doing the best, getting the best grades, like what do they have in common, right? This is going to sound a little silly, but I don't mean it this way, but, do they have a certain supplies that they take to school, right? Are their notebooks organized or do the
Mhm.
thought-provoking questions was a good one. And one of the things we try to solve at the music schools for parents is kids are addicted to devices now, right? And it doesn't help that at school
Yeah.
after COVID, everything shifted to being online with these kids,
Yeah.
right? A lot of things are on the Chromebooks. Not every district, maybe, but a lot of them. So it's so important for your parents to take what Delilah said to heart, which is ask them thought-provoking questions about what they're learning. So put down the phones as parents, because it's easy as parents to get addicted to it. All the parents who are listening, I get
Yeah.
it. I get it.
Yeah.
There's stuff online. There's funny stuff online. You start sharing memes with your family, like we all do it. But taking the time to have a conversation with a kid over dinner or thought-provoking questions, I took that one to heart.
Yeah.
I'm definitely gonna keep that in mind, Delilah. But
Mhm.
going back to my question, the best prepared kids in school, the kids who are doing the best, what have you noticed? Is it something that is it a mixture of things? You think it's a little bit of the things
Yeah.
that the parents are doing, the way they're showing up to
Mhm.
school, attendant? Like, what do you think?
Well, attendance is a big thing. If they're showing up and they're prepared, that's good. And to be prepared, you have to do the homework the night before, make sure, especially with younger kids, because homework, the younger you get, is a new concept for them. So making sure that they're on top of their work and again, ask them those thought-provoking questions. If anything happened at school today that they want to talk about, build that confidence with them so that they could carry that confidence into the classroom to ask for help if they need it. I love the idea of giving kids affirmations, telling them, you know you're smart. I believe you're smart. Um, Talk with your teacher, like let them know if you need help. Just give them reminders constantly about, having that self-confidence in themselves. And another thing that I notice is that the kids who show up prepared and ready to go, their parents read with them, especially if it's language arts that they're struggling with. Read with your kids, talk to them as much as possible to get their brain kind of flowing and developing and all these different things that they're working on in school is they're asking them questions all day long and they're doing assignments all day long. So just make sure that they have that kind of process and they're familiar with answering questions and coming to conclusions on their own and making sure that there's always a connection there and building a positive relationship with your kids with school, if that makes sense. Like reminding them that school is important and that it's fun and they shouldn't be nervous or worried about anything. They have their abilities to do the best that they can and always constantly reminding them that. Because with a lot of students that I work with in school, sometimes they know what they're doing and they know how to do their work. They just need somebody there to give them reassurance of the answer. So they'll know the answer, but they'll still ask me for help. They're like, is it this? And I'll say, yeah, like that's right. You know what you're doing. Like, good job. And that's sometimes all they need. So whether it's working on figuring out word problems or figuring out confidence, just making sure that you are observing their strengths and then some things that they might be struggling with that you can encourage them on.
Yeah, I really like that because our brain really is like a muscle. The reason
Hmm.
why parents think of schools like us for music lessons is because they know we're going to challenge their kids' minds. And I think sometimes as parents, we forget that you said something so key that I love. You said a lot of the times kids know the answers, but they're not confident and they need reassurance. So I think giving your kid the reassurance to be confident, to challenge, to ask for help, and to go for it is so important. I think that's a huge differentiator between kids who are being very successful in school and kids who are struggling is the confidence aspect
Hmm.
of it all. I love that you shared that, which
Hmm.
segues perfectly to the last question for parents here to pick up some advice, which is tips for parents on helping kids with homework. I want you to think of everything that you could think of to help them with homework, whether it's a few things, a couple things, a lot of things. How can parents do a better job at helping their children with homework? And I want to challenge your frame in one other way, Delilah. Parents work all day, they come home and their brain is fried. Because they've been dealing with work problems, right? And they get
Hmm.
home and we know it's our duty to help our kids with homework, but it's like, okay, let's make the time for it. So what do you advise the parents?
I think the simplest thing that you can do with a child is to let them know that they're seen and that they are valued. And like I said earlier, the easiest way to do that is just to have a conversation with them. It doesn't have to be long, but it's really simple to just let them go on their device and let them do their own thing. But having conversations face to face, asking about school, making sure, and it's a big responsibility, especially like you said, if they've had a long day, but just being mindful that they're doing well in school and making sure that, you're aware of things that they might be struggling with. If they're not talking about it with you, older kids have more, social problems, but younger kids even too, ask them if they've made any friends and if they're socializing. And that's a big important thing, especially for TK and for kindergarten. what they're really focusing on in school is social interaction and making friends and having fun, more arts and crafts activities. If there's a project that they get sent home, work on it with them the best that you can. And make sure that when you help them with their work, that you have a positive mindset and that you're reminding them that this is fun and
So you're not
school
just
and work
yelling
should
at
be
them and
fun.
telling them that
Yeah.
they're doing stuff
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah. And if don't, if you've already, because I know when I used to ask for help as a kid, my dad would repeat the question over and over, and I'd still need help, and repeating the question didn't really do anything for me. So I thought that was just so funny. And so just understand your individual child has a style of learning, whether it's visual, they're a visual learner, an auditory learner, and things like that. Just understanding what they need and kind of looking back at that and not thinking initially what you think that they need. Kind of try to put yourself in their shoes. And then if there's a subject that they're not doing well in, you could always find workbooks, like order them online if you don't have the time to go and buy one, or go to a library and look at books, and that could be a fun activity. Public libraries are free, so you can have a little fun, maybe Sunday afternoon, take your kid to the library and have them pick out a book, read it at home with them. You could choose a book that pertains to the subject that they're struggling in and have them read it or read it with them and stuff like that. Just simple little things throughout the day. Just remind yourself to just ask them questions about their day and be there for them kind of stuff, which is like, yeah, obvious, but it's
Well,
small reminders.
it's obvious, but sometimes parents don't do it with, we forget to do it with intent. So what I mean is,
Yeah.
what I picked up a lot from our conversation is talk to kids about school and challenge their mind when it comes to school to build a positive energy, you can call it, around
Yeah,
school,
positive relationship with school is a
relationship with
big,
school.
big thing. Yeah.
And I think sometiis we ask them, how is school? How is this? But we don't do it with the intent of the more I engage their mind in a positive way with school, the better they're going to perform.
Hmm.
So I think that's the biggest thing I picked up. And then parents, you know this as parents myself, if your kid is struggling and you do find that it's hard to find the time, you're having a hard time, that's what tutors are here for, tutors like Delilah, because sometimes we need outside help. Parents, you know this. Kids don't listen to us a lot of the times in the same way that they listen to their teachers. It's just normal, right? We get so many kids at our school who are like, well, I'm a guitarist, but I can't teach my kid guitar. Yeah, we can't, because the kid's not going to listen to you like they listen to our teachers. It's just human nature. So I
Hmm.
appreciate you sharing all of this, Delilah. I think this was very informative. Please let us know, guys, if we're posting clips, if we post this on YouTube, comment like what was the most impactful stuff thing that you heard. For me, it was challenging their mind and giving them confidence so they don't always need reassurance in their work. And I think that was something I had never even thought of. So that was very great. So Delilah, before we finish off, is there anything else you want to share with parents, or you think you covered it all?
Honestly, I love the word that you used of just being intentional, kind of instead of asking the kids, like, how was your day? Maybe give them a different question, like, what was your favorite part of the day? What was your least favorite part of the day? And kind of build from there. But yeah, being intentional and just building a positive relationship with school is going to help your kids in the long run for pretty much the rest of their academic careers. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And to finish off, our goals as parents is to, there's a lot of goals, right? But some of the
Yeah,
biggest
there's
goals
so
we deal
many.
with, so many, but some of the goals we deal with for a long time until our kids are 18 and off to college, and even in colleges, helping them have academic success and helping them find their tribe, if you call it, so their hobbies and what they like outside of school. So being intentional about this, parents, we forget it, but it's so important because this is what we're going to help our kids with for 18 years. So thank you, Delilah, for connecting today. Once again, Delilah is studying to be a teacher. She works at a school. She also has been tutoring outside for private clients, and she's one of our music fun time teachers at our Glendora location who works with the kids 5 and under. So thank you, Delilah, for connecting. Parents, I hope you got some valuable info. Next month, we're going to have another professional on here. So I hope we provided you some value. Everybody have a good day.